Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. The Twisted and the Twilight, the newest DLC for Total War Warhammer 2, has just released. And it turns out that Creative Assembly had a live stream on their Twitch channel for a few hours before the actual launch. Content producer Blondie was there for around 4 hours or so, playing as the Wood Elves, but also they had a guest, Rich from CA, who normally drops in some valuable information here and there. He was on stream for around 30 to 40 minutes, where he mostly talked about the new DLC, but during some time he also took questions from the viewers. Now, a lot of people don't watch these streams, and it is a bit of a shame considering the fact that some valuable information may have been passed on. I watched the whole thing just in case. You never know if a hint for the future pops up. So I found some questions that were asked and they seemed rather interesting, and I wanted to point them out here in this video. So let's go over them. Now before we begin, bear in mind that I was not able to download the whole Twitch VOD. It was 4 hours long and it would have crashed my computer trying to edit that up. I'm still getting used to this heavy editing stuff. So we'll have the trailer for the Twisted and the Twilight popping up in the majority of the video. Should anything require images, they'll pop up, but let's not waste any more time. Now, obviously the first thing to note is that they are indeed going to look at reworking the Forge of Daith. We already know this as it was confirmed via a Facebook, Reddit post and so on, so let's not dabble on that too much. However, shortly after, they started talking about the Twisted and the Twilight and the possible future DLC. You see, they mentioned that the Twisted and the Twilight was indeed delayed. This is of course due to COVID, which did present some issues such as moving all of CA staff to work from home, and yeah, I understand that type of stuff. They mentioned of course that COVID is still not over, and they're not too sure when it would be, so the majority, if not all of their staff will be working from home until the time comes. Why is this important? Well, Creative Assembly took around 7 months to release the Twisted and the Twilight, which obviously could mean that we'll have to wait a while for the next DLC. Generally they're around 4 to 5 months or so, but it could be possible that we'll be stuck in another content drought for another 7 months. I know I don't like this more than you guys, but of course Creative Assembly need to keep their staff safe. Next is more in regards to the lifespan on Warhammer 2, where Rich has said that they still have plenty of plans for Warhammer 2. Quoting, "There's so much cool content we can potentially make for you guys." This leads me to believe that there is potentially more than one more DLC left in the lifespan of Warhammer 2. It seems like he was talking about Warhammer 2 in general, unless he was just referencing the Warhammer series as a whole. But since CA aren't outright talking about Warhammer 3 just yet, it makes sense for him to be just talking about the second game. Next is about possible future characters. More better yet said, original characters, created by Creative Assembly, where Rich says that he's not saying no, using the phrase never say never, but rather focus on established lore, wanting to include as much as possible, even stating that he would also love to include as much as possible. I'm not totally against new original characters. I think Diaphin was done quite well. However, it's still a bit of a grey area. If there's still potential characters to be added in, they shouldn't really work on new original characters, and that's just really my opinion. There is decades of lore in Warhammer Fantasy, so there is a lot to work from. Next was a small question in reference to the recent implementation of legendary heroes, and how they've been brought in through the Twisted and the Twilight DLC. So here he basically says that if people do like them, make sure that they keep saying it. Should there be enough interest, then they'll look at potentially adding in more legendary heroes for other races. There was a question about Bretonnia and if they would ever get any more units, where Rich replied that there would likely be no new units for Bretonnia, as they are very much considered exhausted, at least by CA standards. However, there was mention that there might be more characters, where he specifically mentions Bohemond the Beastslayer, a rather interesting character, and the Duke of Bastogne. This is obviously one of many characters that featured in the end times, and it's very possible that we could see him in the future. Especially with the title Beastslayer, which could potentially mean that he could be an FLC Lord for a future Beastmen DLC. I mean, it does make a bit of sense, considering that Repanse was added into a DLC that made no sense. An FLC character which really had no place between the two races that were fighting, well, plot-wise at least. Now, this might be nothing, but when someone asked about more Skaven, Rich mentions Clan Scurvy. Well, he mentions the fact that the Skaven themselves have a lot of options, but then goes into mentioning Clan Scurvy, and the thing is that CA's own lore kinda mentions Clan Scurvy tied to Thanquol. Yeah, this part is very much a tinfoil hat, but then again he could be throwing a bone at the fanbase just by saying Clan Scurvy will be part of Thanquol's forces, which does indeed make sense anyway. There's no major clan that Thanquol leads. Then there was the topic of why this DLC wasn't a Beastmen vs Wood Elf rework. Simply put, it was said that both races being reworked would not have been possible due to the workload required for just one race. If they would have decided to rework both and have new content for both at the same time, well, then the DLC would have had a much larger delay. And I think they were right there. If you get a massive delay like that, which is already 7 months, and then maybe add in some extra months to it, yeah, that would have been very damning for the community. Next, there was a question that was asked multiple times in regards to the 4th edition Wood Elf Meadow Chariot. There was a big nostalgia trip from Rich, which makes sense to me. He's an old school player as far as I gather, so he was probably around the time when 4th edition was still quite an active scene. Though he did mention that it's entirely possible to see it in the future. Not outright confirming it, but saying it could be possible, which could mean that we might not have seen the last of the Wood Elves in terms of paid for or even free content, which for me actually is quite a relief. There are some characters that are my personal favourites that have not been added in, and there are indeed a few missing units, so you never know. And lastly, there was a question as to why there were no giant rats. And apparently it made no sense to add a swarm unit to a faction as the Skaven, who are already a swarm faction. I guess this makes sense, and yeah, there was a lot of points given there where the fact is that you would be using the giant rats in a very similar way to clan rats and slaves, but the giant rats themselves are a personal favourite, so I'm still a bit sad that we're not seeing them. However, it is important to note that afterwards, both Rich and Blondie highly praised the modding community, and said more or less that if CA don't end up adding them, there's obviously the possibility that the modders will do so themselves. And let's be honest, the modders have been doing a massive job lately in regards to that. They never said that they would never add it in, but then again, it kind of feels like we'll never see the giant rats. So this was everything discussed when Rich showed up to the stream. Not much was discussed in regards to Blondie's parts, but then again Blondie did state that there are just some things he can't discuss. But what do you think about this information? Do you think that this is possible information or hints about the future? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.